Saturday morning, as we kick off the Experts program, Luis Alvarez, CEO of the Alvarez Technology Group, is joining us right now. Luis, welcome back.
Thank you, Mark. How are you today?
Doing pretty good. So we have a really fascinating story to kick things off with today, and it was a big security breach or a big hack that happened recently to a Silicon Valley company, and actually it's a company that's up there in Milpitas. FireEye is a top cybersecurity firm, and they were hacked. What do you know about this?
So FireEye has been kind of at the top of the heap when it comes to cybersecurity firms. All of us that are in the practice cybersecurity, provide cybersecurity services, look at them as kind of the pinnacle of where we all want to be. And in a stunning admission on Tuesday, they reported that they had been hacked by what looks like to be Russian state operatives. And when you think about a hack, like we talk about hacks and breaches all the time, and usually they're stealing information, or maybe they're encrypting your data with ransomware and then asking you to pay the ransom. In this case, these hackers not only were able to penetrate FireEye's systems, they were able to steal some of the most sophisticated counter cyber criminal tools that are known to exist, including tools used by organizations like the FBI to protect networks. So basically, they stole literally the keys to the kingdom. And it's frightening to know that Russia potentially now has access to these tools that were classified and highly protected, and that they stole them from a company like FireEye.
So how easy is it to redo these tools, to throw out the tools that they have and to come up with new tools that will do the same thing but are unhacked? Is that doable, or do they just have to throw up their hands and say, dang, we're done?
So the modern era of cyber hacking, actually, people point to Eric Snowden as kind of the genesis of this modern era of hacks and breaches, because part of what he did was he stole all of these tools that NSA had, that the National Security Agency had, and made those got out in the wild, which led to this hyper-intensive acceleration of cybercrime, because these tools that were, again, used by our intelligence agencies to protect us and maybe do counter operations against other nation states were now being able to be purchased on the dark web. And they created this modern era of cyber hacking. So these tools that FireEye developed and provided the organizations like the FBI and the CIA, those were designed to counter the original NSA tools that went out there. So now you're going to have this cycle of these tools potentially being released in the dark web and having those tools be used by cybercrime organizations, nation states, to really exploit weaknesses in our networks.
I guess that just means that they have to come up with more ways to fortify the network so that those tools won't be able to break into them. But when you look at, and I'm looking at the article here in the New York Times, and this has been reported in a number of different medias since Tuesday when it first became known, is that we have a pretty good idea on the outside, right? People are saying what was probably the Russians. Our own government, though, is not saying what state it is, although it really seems like it probably was Russia. And if it was, why wouldn't they just come straight out and say, well, we know so-and-so did it? Why would they not want to release that publicly?
Well, one of the things that intelligence agencies protect really, really tightly is something called sources and methods. And they admit that they can trace this particular hack to a specific agency or entity, including a country. Then that lets that country know, hey, they have a way of tracing us. We need to figure out what that is and find a way to make sure that doesn't happen again. So by remaining mum, what they're trying to do is just say, we don't want you to know that we know that you know that we know that you hacked us. And it's this game that is played by intel agencies all the time, trying to protect what they know and trying to keep it classified. So even though from, like you said, the outside looking in, most people are pointing to Russia, you're not going to get our government to officially say anything about that until they're able to figure out a way to do it, to not reveal what those sources and methods for detecting the origin of this hack are.
And one of the things that we ought to consider as well is that countries like Russia and North Korea, they will allocate a disproportionate portions of their GDP towards cyber warfare. And one of the advantages in America being energy independent is the fact that when we don't have to go on the world market and buy energy from regimes like Saudi Arabia and Russia, we're denying them resources that they would put into their cyber war efforts. And I would say that one of the advantages in America continuing to exploit the natural resources that we have for energy is as we increase that, and we can make offers to our allies in Europe that, hey, instead of buying from the Russians, buy from us, as a way of denying Russia the money they need. They're going to allocate money to these efforts to begin with, but denying them all that they need or all that they want to pour into cyber warfare. It would just seem to me that economically, one of the ways that we can fight back is with energy, and denying them markets by offering better deals to allies that may be purchasing natural gas or oil from Russia, and quite frankly, propping up their state and propping up their cyber warfare efforts with hard currency.
And I think that you make a good point, which is these countries know that they can't go toe-to-toe with the United States in traditional warfare, and they're investing in cyber warfare because they know that that's an area where they can scale without having to invest in hard equipment like tanks and airplanes and missiles.
Yeah.
And they can do a lot of damage to countries like the United States or any open country where things aren't locked down like they are in China, for example, or North Korea. And our systems are quite literally open to exploitation, which makes this FireEye breach really scary, because those tools that we develop to protect ourselves are now going to be turned against us.
It's another form of asymmetrical warfare. Talking with Luis Alvarez, the CEO of the Alvarez Technology Group, has been with us today. Reach him online at alvareztg.com, at AlvarezTG. That's the Twitter handle. And Luis, the toll-free number for the I-Team.
Give us a call at 866-78-I-Team. That's 866-784-8326.